Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to check out any of the other videos on my channel. I got reviews of all the Mandalorian episodes this season, Book of Boba Fett, some other stuff, lots of Star Wars videos, my Star Wars sequels reimagined, and let's get into this. So this one starts off right where we left off last week with Bo and the Mandos running away after escaping Gideon, who now has Din in his custody, and Grogu's running around with his IG mech warrior suit. And so then Bo is giving directions to another Mando who's literally flying into space with a jetpack. It's like, I think it's an owl Mando, because we already know the Death Watch homeless Mandos run out of jet fuel in like a minute, like what happened in the pterodactyl episode. So he's obviously an owl one, because they have all the good stuff. And I'm trying to wrap my head around a guy with a jetpack breaking through the planet's atmosphere into space. It seems kind of dumb, but whatever. Oh, and then Gideon's clone Mandos find Bo's Mandos, and they start fighting, and Bo takes a glowing red light detonator and sticks it on a rock. And somehow the Mando clones don't notice, even though she's the one they're fighting, and they run right up to it and get blown up. And then Mando is getting dragged through Gideon's Imperial base, and in another The Mandalorian irrational move, Gideon only had 2 guys escorting Mando, even though he knows he could easily take them out. And so he takes out a page out of Dr. Evil's book from Austin Powers. And so Mando starts fighting them, and he kills one guy, and then Mech Warrior Grogu saves him. But wait, Mech Warrior Grogu literally ran off with the other Mandos at the end of last week's episode. So how did he somehow get back through the blast door and through the caves to Mando without anyone noticing? It just makes no sense. He just somehow is there, even though we literally see him running away with Bo-Katan and the other Mandos. How did he know where to find the Mandalorian? This is like a maze, and they say that in this episode because Mando needs the map of the base sent to him. So how did he know where to find him? Din is not force sensitive where they like feel each other. It makes no sense. And how did he get there without any of the other bad Mandos noticing him? And so this whole thing is just, and again, why is he in the Mech Warrior suit when he can just force anything he needs to do? He doesn't need a Mech Warrior suit. I'm not buying the toy. Anyway, then Mando's like, we gotta take out Gideon. We have to end this. Are you with me, Grogu? And it's like, yeah, bro, he always is. This isn't deep. Like, they try to create like some deep little touching moment. It's like, he's been with you this entire show. He's not going anywhere. And then Bo's Mandos fly out of the ground. And right now I'm thinking like we're getting Mandos in space coming. Like they're all going to go into space and fight. But they actually don't. But it's just funny. And then Gideon sends the ties. Even though he sent the ties at the end of the last episode. And it's been like a bunch of time. But it's a cool visual, I guess. So the ties. And they're heading up to the ship. The big command ship that the Mandos run, and then this must be like 30 or so ties, so like there's a lot of TIE fighters here, and I'm like, how does this Shadow Council have so many resources 5 years after the Empire is obliterated? It doesn't make any sense. And this is just Gideon. Imagine what Buddy, who claims he's with Thrawn, has, or like Hux's dad has, but like somehow they just have all this stuff. It's like, where is it coming from? All these ships and stuff and bases. Literally 5 years later. Anyway, then Gideon is just standing there watching Mando and Grogu run around on his map. So you can see their dots on his map. It's like, and you're like, maybe you should have escorted Mando with the guards and maybe a few more guards instead of just standing around the map and looking at it for however long. Like, how long have you been standing there, Gideon? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I guess it's their weak setup for the fight with Gideon and Mando, so Gideon has to be irrational for it to work, because they can't write a story where he's a competent, rational villain. He has to be an idiot. And But to me, it's like Grogu is there, so it doesn't matter. All he has to do is stick his hand out. So there's no tension or build up. It's like he's gonna face Gideon. It's like, yeah, but it's Grogu. He's just gonna do something, and then nothing matters. So it's like I know for a fact nothing bad's gonna happen. And if Grogu was challenged in wielding the Force, then it might take something he might not be capable of doing. And then it's like, whoa, that could be interesting. They could maybe die or something. Back at him. No, it's Grogu. He can stop he can do anything. He stops Rancors and big giant droids. And it just makes it meh. It's just like no stakes. And then Mando starts talking to R5, who's on the surface. And he's like, you need to get down here and tap in and find where Gideon's control room is. And I'm like, what? How is he supposed to get down there? And then he flies down like R2 did in Attack of the Clones, which was stupid because he never used that in the OT. But anyway, he flies down, and there's no guards or anything anywhere in these docking bays where all the big ships and expensive stuff is. Like, no one there. And there's like Mando clone dudes everywhere. So anyway, just like Grogu, he just walked through and found Mando. No one stopped him. So anyway, he just rolls over to the terminal and plugs in, and then sends the map to Blando, and it's again very much a video game plot. It reminds me of Cal using the map to get to the place to find the thing in Jedi Fallen Order video game plot. And then the one Mando that was somehow way ahead of Bo, like the guy that was going up into the atmosphere. Like, how did he get that far ahead? And the rest of them, even though they all left basically at the same time. Anyway, he's flying into space, and then he gets to the ship, and he warns the other Mandos in space, and then they get going and preparing for battle, and all the other Mandos start running around because he says, Gideon's back, blah, 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 because they can't communicate with the surface, so he had to fly up there. And then all the Mandos just jump into space. And it turns out that's how they get into the gauntlet ships, is they like literally fly to them. I'm like, what? Why wouldn't they be in like the docking bay of the cruiser? Or like if the cruiser doesn't have a big enough docking bay for all these ships, like wouldn't they like at least like stay really close by instead of being like a half a kilometer away? These guys just... We think it's good strategy in war for you to fly through the air to get to your ship that's just sitting there in the air because reasons. And so they want Mandos flying through space to reach their ships, where they can just probably walk to them if there's a bay big enough in the ship. But whatever. And again, it's all for the visual. And then the gauntlets fly down into the stormy clouds, and you're like, what? Wait, what? You've just been warned by Buddy that they're coming to attack you, and you fly down into the planet? What is going on? What kind of war strategy is this? And then, of course, right as they go down into the clouds, TIEs come up out of the clouds, and they're going to go attack the main cruiser. And it's like, who are you idiots? Why would you leave? Oh, man, Mandalorians are dumb. They have dumb cult things, dumb beliefs, dumb war strategies. Idiots. Why would you leave the main cruiser and leave it by itself to get attacked? Oh, and then it's literally just this one guy defending the cruiser alone, trying to man all the guns and stuff, and he's like running around and he's not having success. He can't shoot any of them down because he's alone. There's no one even in there. So they all just left him. They didn't have a single other guy on the ship with him to help him. He's just by himself with the full cruiser, and everyone leaves. And Bo-Katan is the one who was like giving them the orders at the beginning. It's like she saw they had a whole bunch of TIE fighters. Like, what are you doing? Oh, this is insane. And so the TIEs blast the crap out of the ship, obviously, and it's gonna end up just getting blown up. So then Mando and Grogu get to the Red Barrier hallway Naboo ripoff thing. Remember Naboo? Remember Darth Maul? And he tells R5 to shut it down so he can get in, and because R5's at the terminal. And so Mando takes on each section and with 2 guards, and each one has 2 guards, and R5 is blocking the guards from opening the barriers all at once, and they're getting mad. And so Mando's beating the crap out of all these guys, and then oh oh no, a mouse droid is going to catch R5, and he does, and it's so small he doesn't even do anything other than flash its lights. That's the security for Gideon's big bays, where he's got TIE fighters and stuff, is little mouse droids that just beep. And they don't even do anything. They can't even send a signal to like send reinforcements or anything. They have to actually physically go get them. But anyway, so it starts bugging R5, and even though it can't do anything to R5, R5's distracted. And he's distracted long enough that he's ignoring Mando, and Mando's calling him to open the barriers. It's just so stupid. And then R5 tases it. And then the mouse droid just runs away, and then R5 opens the last barrier, and Mando kills the rest of the guards. But oh no! A whole gang of mouse droids shows up to be just there and around R5. They can't actually do anything except just bump into him gently. Oh no! It's like, see? Do you see the mouse droid? See it, everybody? See how cool it is? It's so lame. The mouse droid gang. They can't do anything, and so then he just flies away. And then Mando and Grogu go into Gideon's hideout, and we see the clones again. The clones! And oh no! It turns out they're all Moff Gideon clones. And Grogu is looking at it. And he's like looking into its face, and they do the old open the eyes startling thing, like straight out of like Lord of the Rings, or like all these movies where like the dead person or like the clone or whatever opens its eyes, it's gonna get you. It's just so cheese. And then Mando does something with the computer that bursts all of their clone test tubes. And it's burst open, and so they gotta run. Him and Grogu gotta run because all the gross clone juice is going to get on them. And then it's like Gideon can see where they are right now on his map. They showed us that. So why is he standing idly by while Mando destroys all his clones he's worked so hard to build? He just lets him do it. And if you are Gideon and you're like, I don't want to face him alone, it's like, dude, you got like hundreds of fake Mandos or not Mandos. Why are you by yourself? Just go in there and take him out. Like, what is going on? Like, everyone is an idiot on this show. Oh. And actually I was thinking, like, if that one opened its eyes, wouldn't this just be releasing him? Like, he's alive. So I think, we better get a dozen naked Gideon clones running around. That would literally redeem this show if they did naked Gideons running around everywhere. and then Bo and the Mandos that we thought were going to join the fight go and hide in some caves with some plants. And it's like, look, the Mandalore's growing plants. Just so we can see that it can grow plants. Like, it's just... And then Bo reinforcements that should be protecting the main cruiser show up. So all those gauntlet ships that should be protecting the cruiser that's getting destroyed show up to fight who I don't know, because all the ties are up in space. So like, I don't know why they needed to. And so the Mandos were hiding. They're hiding in the cave for about as much time as it takes to say like 5 sentences. And it's so pointless. And then the Mandos and the gauntlet ships jump out. And all the Mandos go flying. And then Bo ignites the Darksaber. And then the bad Mandos, or Bad Nose, go to meet them in the air. Bad Nose versus Mandos. And they start air fighting. And then Mando and Grogu enter Gideon's chamber with the map that would have shown they were in the clone room that they destroyed, but Gideon didn't care for some reason. So in the room with the map that he was looking at. And then the door shuts behind Mando. And 15 naked Gideon clones come out of nowhere. Just kidding. But that would have saved the show. And then they hear Gideon's voice. My clones were finally going to be perfect. And again, you're like, why did you just sit there and let them ruin them then when you knew where they were? And you're still in the chamber with the map, so you knew they were in there and you didn't do anything. It doesn't make any sense. And then he goes, they were all the good in me, but they had one thing I didn't. The Force. And of course, because Palpatine made Snoke's, they had to have the Force. Justifying Palpatine. And then so Gideon's all mad, even though he just sat back and let it happen, even though he clearly was willing to fight as he is right now. He wanted to fight Mando, but didn't care that he wrecked his clones, even though he did care that he wrecked his clones. And then no one in this show has any rational sense at all in them. At all. It's so nonsensical. And And how did Mando know how to make the clone tubes burst either? Wouldn't Gideon have had some sort of authorization in the computer for that? Like, I don't know. He's being so willy-nilly about his so-called prized possessions. It's like some random guy can come in and just use his computer. It just doesn't make any sense. It's so dumb. And then the other thing is, why is Gideon dressed like an Inquisitor for this whole show? He's like a Moff. None of the other Moffs wear Vader jumpsuits. I don't get it. And then he starts fighting, and every time Gideon moves with his not Iron Man suit, it makes sounds. Sounds like a robot creaking thing, and it's just like... And then Gideon, with the help of his not Iron Man suit, starts beating up Mando. And then the Praetorian guards! The guards! Did you see them? Did you see the guards? Wow! And they start beating up Mando, and you're like, Grogu, are you there? Grogu, please stick your hand out and end this. Like you could have hours ago by squeezing Gideon's helmet while he had it on and popping his head like a balloon. Grogu, where are you? And Grogu comes out and is like, no, 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 with the IG mech warrior suit. He's pushing the button that says no, and then the guards go after him, and Mando's like, no! And before he can stop them, Gideon hits him with a missile. And then the door closes, and Grogu is left alone with the guards that he could literally just fling down a cliff edge at any time. But no, I'm so scared right now, no! But I'm not, because these guys made him so powerful there's zero tension at all, because we know that he can get out of this very, very easily, just like Rey. Tension is what interests the audience. But these writers kill it 5 minutes into these shows and movies, so you're just like, man, whatever, he'll get out of it. There's nothing to worry about. And then back to the armor and Bo air fighting. But the armor doesn't run out of fuel like her clansman did after the pterodactyl bird thing. In the other episode... They only don't have enough fuel when it's convenient for the plot. Of course, she has enough fuel now to be like flying around for just forever, basically. And then, oh no, Grogu still hasn't realized he can just fling these dudes. So he gets hit and falls down, and he jumps out of the kangaroo pouch. And then he's running around on the pointless floating leg fixture, and they're swinging at him. And he does some more flips and cringy jumps just to keep us remembering those jumps. And then Mando keeps fighting Gideon. And Bo keeps fighting in the air, so still no update on the lone man trying to defend the cruiser in space. It's getting obliterated. He's by himself. And then somehow Bo sees Mando? And I was like, I thought this was an enclosed area, like where Gideon's like office was and the clones. And it's like, no, not anymore, because we need her to see him. And so Bo swoops down and she hits Gideon, and she's like, I'll take care of Gideon. Go save your kid. And so Mando goes, and then Bo busts out the Darksaber, and then, oh no, Grogu falls to the floor with a piece of light fixture landing on him. Whatever could he do? He's the most powerful Force user of all time. Oh no! And then Mando runs in and saves him. I guess Gideon never did lock Grogu in there when that door closed. So the whole door closing was pointless. Mando just went in anyway, and then Mando saves him, even though he's Grogu's massive, he's this massive Force user. And you're like, yay, good thing Mando is there, even though Grogu doesn't need him. And then Grogu finally uses the Force on one of the guards, and he doesn't get tired at all, and he just flings him around. And then Grogu uses the Force to help Mando defeat the guards. And Mando is like, yeah, you did a good job, kid. It's just like, all of this was pointless. And then, of course, because of the dumbness of leaving the cruiser alone and manned by one guy, it comes crashing out of the sky. It's like, good job, guys. And then Buddy is like, Bo, clear everyone out. I'm going to hit the base. And you're like, what? So now they're trying to make it look as if they meant to do this? So he's going to direct this crashing cruiser into the base where all the Mandos and Bo are? Oh, that's even dumber. If you kill Gideon, you can keep the base. And God knows, other than this base, Mandalore has zero infrastructure. It's like 100 years to even come close to rebuilding it. So it's like, no, we're going to destroy it anyway. This is just so dumb. And then Gideon is like, give me the Darksaber. It's like, why? Why do you even need it? You had an army of Mandos already on the base. And the base. And why do you think you need the stupid Darksaber now? What Mando's gonna follow you anyway? It doesn't make any sense. And then he grabs her hand and he crushes her hand that's holding the Darksaber. I'm like, good. Hate that stupid plot device that made no sense anyway. And then Mando comes out and shoots at Gideon, and then the cruiser's coming down, and all the Mandos fly out of there. And then Grogu starts force pushing Gideon away. I'm like, it's about time, dude. Didn't you deal with this guy last episode? And then the ship crashes down, and Gideon gets burned up somehow, and Bo and Mando are saved by Grogu using the Force to keep the flames away. So he could have just used the Force when Gideon took Mando the first time, just watched him so we could have another episode. And again, this is why I never for 1 second thought anything bad would happen, because this baby can just save everybody from anything. It's boring. And now the big thing we see is that when he uses the Force, he only gets a little bit tired instead of super tired. It's so interesting. and then we're back at destroyed Mandalore, and the armor is on the waters, and doing another ceremony with the pterodactyl kid, and then swearing Mando ways, and blah 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 blah. And then I'm really hoping the mythosaur just pops up and eats them all. That would have been amazing. And then she basically baptizes him, but with his helmet on. And you're like, what is this? Oh my gosh! And then Grogu is Mando's apprentice now, and no longer a foundling. And then the armor's like, no, if he can't speak, he can't be a Mando. And then Mando's like, yes, but if the parents vouch for him, he can. And she's like, yeah, but his parents aren't here. And it's like, problem solved. I will adopt him. And you're like, well, yeah, you already did this. It's not like there's a governing body with paperwork and stuff. All you had to do is just say, I adopt him. Then what was the point of the scene? He's already Mando's anyways, his son anyways. So trying to make it all touching. And he adopts him, but literally nothing changed here at all. This is such a nothing scene. And it's like, if he's your apprentice, you have to take him on his journeys. And it's like, well, that's vague, leaving it open for them to write basically anything, whatever, can be a journey. It's just like, then they zoom in on the pointless mythosaur, and then they crown Bo in some area of Mandalore that happens to be in really good shape for some reason. Like, everything in Mandalore is completely destroyed, but somehow this area with the forge just is looking sweet. And then for the visual again, of course, even though it makes no sense, and Bo lights the forge. And man, they sure cleaned this area up quick, I'll tell you. And if it was that easy, why didn't Gideon use the forge? Who knows? Nothing makes sense. And so then Mando goes back to that New Republic base where they wouldn't help Mandalore because they were too busy, even though there were ships all over grounded and everyone was just drinking at the bar, and the ships are still sitting there. And they wouldn't help the Mandos for plot convenience because they still helped Jack Black's planet in the previous episode, even though it wasn't a member of the New Republic either. Nothing in this show makes sense. And then, yeah, the supposedly totally strapped New Republic still just has all these fighters sitting around, even though there are threats everywhere. And Mando tells X-Wing guy that he's willing to work for the New Republic. And then Mando goes and sees Carl Weathers, who gives him keys to a cabin somewhere. And like, what happened to the tract of land he offered him? Whatever. And then the Mandos aren't using it anymore, but I guess you don't get it anyway. And then the new IG-11 announces he's the new Marshal of Navarro. And we cut to Mando's new hut, his little cottage, and Grogu messing with frogs again like he did with Luke. But I mean, I guess it makes sense. He can train himself. I mean, he literally doesn't need Jedi training anyway, even though Luke said he did. And can't Mando take the stupid helmet off when he's at home with his son? Like, really? This last shot is like the illustration of the entire show. Like, he's sitting there on his porch alone in the middle of nowhere in a cabin with his son, and he can't take his stupid helmet off. Oh, just all day, every day at home with no one around. And it ended where it started, guys. It just makes no sense. Everyone makes really dumb decisions. No one understands how to actually fight in a war. There's incompetence on every side. And then Grogu sticks his hand out and everything's good again. That's The Mandalorian for 3 episodes. Everyone's an idiot. No one knows what they're doing. Nobody has any acumen or skills in anything other than maybe some fighting skills. And everything's dumb, and then Grogu sticks his hand out. So it's like, I'm supposed to be excited now for the next season where he's just going to do that again. There's no tension. There's nothing to fight for. No one cares. And I hope the mythosaur comes out of the water and just eats everybody and ends it, because this show is terrible. And it needs to be put out of its misery. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good day.